Welcome to the Rolla Tailgate, your go-to source for all the ongoings of the Rolla Fantasy League. Week 1 is officially in the books, and man, what a week it was. We had some close games, and we had some huge blowouts within the league, really separating who's the men from the boys in the Fantasy League. We're going to hop into what happened this previous week, and then what the week upcoming is with an exciting first week. The first match happened to be our closest match, and that was Trenton versus Carl, with Carl pulling out the victory 82-78. Carl, we knew going in, was reliant on those Eagles to do well, and boy, did they deliver with Jalen and Saquon combining for over 40 points. We also had one of the most interesting things happen where Carl actually benched his defense since the defense was playing on Monday night, and he didn't want them to go negative. Trenton, on the other hand, had a lot to be desired and had the lowest score of the week. Next game went really the opposite way between what we had predicted between Leonard and Cole, with Leonard scoring the second lowest points of the week and Cole being one of the highest. Leonard's dream of Burrow and Chase stack doing well did not turn out for him. Was Jamar Chase a poison pill to be drafted in the first round? No, I don't think it's quite that drastic. They're going to turn it around. They seem to always start slow each year, and Leonard is feeling that. But man, what a blowout. Cole's team looked great. Derrick Henry, James Cook, even Travis Kelce putting up a lot of points for this team. Then we had one of the largest differentials of the week between Levi and Kyle. And man, Levi did not have a weak spot across the board. He won 146-101. He put faith in the rookie, and the rookie delivered 26 points from J.J. McCarthy. Bijan Robinson doing what you want in a first-round pick, getting 21 points. When you have these many players outscoring their projected totals, that's going to mean something, and that's probably going to be a win for the week. That not only gets him this victory, that also gets him first overall in the league. Kyle, on the other hand, he did pretty well. He had Jaden Daniels, who got a pretty big fantasy score. He had Christian McCaffrey not get hurt, so that's awesome. And he seems to have the only worthwhile player on Miami in Devon Achane. Our game of the week, Jared versus TJ, did not disappoint with our second closest matchup of less than 10 points, with Jared pulling out the victory of 108-98. And this was really a shootout, and I don't really think that we saw that coming in this way. Patrick Mahomes and Lamar both had great scores, but really what Jared's running backs that were supposed to be some of his top scorers, Jahmyr Gibbs had a really disappointing showing from him, getting 10 points, not looking like the player. He hardly got that many touches. He luckily found other players, that people like Tyler Warren, deliver for him. TJ, also on the other hand, really what it comes down to is Xavier Worthy. He got hurt early in the game, got him a fat 0 points, and that just really hurt him when you have somebody put up a stinker like that in a league competitive such as this. He did have a huge bust in Terry McLaurin, getting 3.7 points, TJ Hawkinson with 3 points. Those really cost you weeks when you're playing good teams like this. Then the last matchup, we had John versus Devin, and Devin put up points with the second most points of the week, really on the back of Josh Allen's 42 points, the highest fantasy score of the week. There's a lot else to be liking about Devin's team, with Emeka Egbuka having a great rookie showing with 21 points, and then JJ doing JJ things, having a late resurgence, and James Conner being the steady, plodding self that he is. John's team was pretty surprising. I think the players that we thought were going to do really well kind of didn't. Bo Nix, Amon-Ra St. Brown, they did not perform all that well. Breece Hall, on the other hand, Aaron Jones did perform really well and outperformed their projections by a lot. And Puka Nacua looked really great. Unfortunately, that wasn't enough to win. He just could not overcome Josh Allen's 42 points. And that Denver defense and Dallas kicker putting up a combined 27 points. When are we going to ban defense and kickers? Sorry, I'll get rid of that subjectiveness opinions going forward, but every once in a while you got to let it come out. So that was the week. This was a great week 1. A lot of scores here. Really people getting separated. Levi with that top score. Devin with a lot of points. And Cole with the big 138. Then we really have the rest of us besides that. We have Trenton in last place, scoring 78 points. Carl was lucky to play him to get that victory. He had the third lowest points at 82. And then we really have the rest right around that 100-point mark. Well, let's get into the next week now, week number 2 of this upcoming. We have some really interesting matchups. And the first is Carl versus Kyle. That's a really hard phrase to say, Carl versus Kyle. And luckily for Carl, he got that 1-0 because he really needs it. He is not favored in this matchup against Kyle, and really for good reason. Carl is really dependent on that Philadelphia offense. Luckily for him, they are going into Kansas City, which they did. Kansas City just gave up 27 points to the Chargers, so they should have a good shootout. Philadelphia looked really good on offense with Hurts and Barkley, but he really needs that offense to also be throwing the ball. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on this roster did not look very good. Kenneth Walker is in a complete timeshare with Charbonnet, and Charbonnet really seems to be the favorite in carries there. Drake London got hurt late with his shoulder. He is marked as questionable right now, but if he is hurt, Carl is in some really deep problems. Really a shining spot being Keon Coleman that was on Carl's bench the week previous, looking to be a really de facto player for Buffalo in this next week. And they have the Jets upcoming, which the Jets had a shootout against Pittsburgh. Kyle, on the other hand, is looking pretty good. He has Jaden Daniels, who had a great week last week. He had 11 carries, but he did come out with a wrist injury. They said it's not really a big deal, but we love seeing that as a fantasy owner. We love seeing those type of carries, but real life also, we have to make sure he doesn't get hurt. And so we have to see if anything is happening with that wrist injury. Nothing to be concerned about yet, but something to keep your eye on. Christian McCaffrey was on the injury report, but he looked good. He got 18 points, which is great for him. He continues to be a focal of that San Francisco offense. Devon Achane is really the only player that seems to be worth owning in Miami. He's going to continue to get fed there. And Zay Flowers, he had a great week last week. I would not expect that to continue personally. I don't think that there's really a pass catcher in Baltimore to be trusted. However, I mean, he looked great. So I could be eating crow on that, and he could be having a good year. Mark Andrews, however, did not have a good week, and I guess that's kind of the yin and the yang. You have one pass catcher doing well, and then you have the other one not doing well. But Mark Andrews just was not getting looks. Even with Isaiah likely injured or not playing, he still did not look good. Also, unfortunately for Kyle, he does have a tight end on the bench, but that's a Philadelphia tight end, and Philadelphia is not throwing the ball. So that's going to be a tough decision that Kyle's going to have to make. That said, I think we're going to go with Kyle on this one with that 128 to 120 projected total. So we have Leonard versus Trenton, with Trenton once again having the lowest projected total of the week. This is what we all love to see. You know, in some ways, this is kind of the shitter bowl of the week. Leonard had the second lowest score last week. Trenton had the lowest score of the week. So Leonard is pulling out the projected total here. He really just needs Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase to do well. He's put a lot of draft capital in that stack. They did not perform last week. They need to perform this week. I didn't really watch the game. I'm not sure what was going on. I've seen a few highlights of Burrow just getting absolutely demolished sack-wise. I don't know. Maybe the offensive line wasn't blocking very well and he wasn't able to get the ball out. But even T. Higgins didn't do well. We'll have to see about that Cincinnati offense. They need to put up points to win. They did pull out the victory over the Browns, but that's not saying a whole lot. That said, he has running backs for days. If you're looking for a trade partner for a running back, Leonard is the team to go to. Josh Jacobs looked great for Green Bay. Kyron Williams had 18 out of 19 overall carries for the Rams. He's looking awesome. David Montgomery was pretty sketchy, but I think that's just the theme in Detroit. We're expecting them to bounce back from that first week. Maybe the Green Bay defense is just really that legit, or something going on with first game after Ben Johnson is now no longer offensive coordinator there. That said, he really needs them to bounce back. But he does have a couple stashes on his bench. He has J.K. Dobbins and Zach Charbonnet, both who had really good first weeks, especially for being bench players. So if you're looking for some running backs, target Leonard. Trenton, on the other hand, he also has some nice things going on. He's trying to say in the group chat, this is probably, I don't know, some of the most, not drama, but some of the most big things in the messenger group was about Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson. Apparently, Trenton had Justin Fields in his starting lineup. He chickened out, pulled him out. I personally think that it was with good reason. Justin Fields did not look good in the preseason. They're going to play what was one of, if not one of the best defenses in the league in the Steelers. We were not expecting a shootout. We were not expecting him to do what he did. I think it was the right call, but using hindsight, it obviously wasn't the right call. He now has Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson in his lineups. This could be definitely a chasing points type of scenario. Justin Fields is a very boom or bust type player, but he feels that it's going to be a good matchup against Buffalo, coming off that shootout against the Baltimore Ravens. Ashton Genty did not do too well. He did get a ton of carries. He got 19 carries, which is great, but he had 2 yards a carry. That is not good. That's not what you want out of your top running back. You love to see that. You love to see that amount of carries, but is there something going on with that offensive line? Again, I didn't watch that game to exactly know, but what is going on with the offensive line of getting 2 yards a carry? That's not good. Travis Etienne looked great. Trenton had him on the bench, but they just traded Tank Bigsley to the Philadelphia Eagles, and so Travis Etienne is looking to be the guy in Jacksonville, and that could be a really nice start for him against Cincinnati. Ladd McConkey did his thing. The really big story here, story of 2 receivers. Marvin Harrison Jr. looked great in his start. They were using him all over the field. They were getting him downfield. They were getting him some screens. He looked awesome in the routes he was running with heavy utilization. But the tail of the other receiver was Nico Collins. Nico Collins did not look good, or really that Houston offense did not look good. C.J. Stroud was running for his life from that offensive line. He was not getting his receivers the ball. Nico Collins is a talented receiver, but if he's not getting thrown the ball, there's not much you can do and hope for there. You have to continue to start a player like that, but that's somebody to keep an eye on. He does have a pretty good bench here. He has Jacory, who had a great week with Washington. Jordan Mason looks to be the running back, or the rushing running back, so to speak, within Minnesota. Goal line carries and probably the more explosive runner. And then Tony Pollard definitely had a lot of carries, or a lot of touches. However, that Titan offense just did not look good, and is going to be really hard to probably start unless it's a bye week. I'm going Leonard with this one, but this is going to be a close game. You just need to have Burrow and Chase do well. Before we get into our game of the week, I want to first go to our sponsor, The Furniture Connection. The Furniture Connection is a local store within Rolla, North Dakota that is selling all your furniture and appliance needs. You can go on their website. You can look up different furniture if they anything that is suiting your fancy here. They have a huge in-store catalog that you're able to go try out, feel things, whether it be mattresses, refrigerators, sofas and love seats, tables and chairs. You have it, they have it. And so go check them out at FurnitureConnectionND.com and use code FANTASY at checkout for another 0% off. Do not miss this while it counts. Furniture Connection, thank you for sponsoring the Rolla Tailgate Show. So on to our matchup of the week, and this is Cole versus Jared. Cole had a huge first week, putting up 138 points, with Jared pulling out the victory against TJ. But this is our closest projected total, and really for good reason. Cole has a really pretty great team here. Baker Mayfield looked great in his first week. Derrick Henry is the ageless wonder. He had a lot of carries for a lot of yards, and he looked great doing it. James Cook also had a really great week. He's a really versatile player. He's not really the prototypical running back, I wouldn't say, of somebody that's going to be rushing between the tackles, but they get him involved in many areas of the offense, and that looks to continue. Malik Neighbors had a bit of a quieter day, but still almost 10 points there. Jackson Smith-Njigba had a great start to the season with Darnold throwing the ball. Travis Kelce had a surprising almost 12 points last week. There's a lot to like. His 2 weak spots are really the flex But he struck gold in having Javonte Williams on his bench. Javonte Williams, the running back that was originally in Denver, now in Dallas this year, really had a surprising touch amount. So he had over 79% of the rushes for Dallas and ran a route on 77% of the Cowboys dropbacks. That is crazy utilization in today's NFL. There's a lot to like there. He needs to get that player into his starting lineup ASAP and probably replace Jalen Waddle. That Miami offense looks bad. I would be very hesitant to start really any player that's not Devin Achane at this point in time. Now, Jared's team's no slouch either, but they're, like I kind of mentioned in his win, there's a lot to be wondering about here. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. They are having Philadelphia at home with Jalen Carter back. That could be a really tough matchup for Kansas City. We saw what happened in the Super Bowl. But that Philadelphia defense is considerably different than the Super Bowl winning team. So we'll see what Patrick can do at this point in time. Detroit really needs a bounce back game against Chicago. Gibbs did not look to be himself, but who knows what's going on in Detroit. I expect a bounce back there. Bucky looked great. And really, Tyler Warren and Alvin Kamara also look great. Tyreek Hill on Miami. Enough said there. That looked really bad. DK Metcalf came away with 10 points, but with Aaron Rodgers throwing 4 touchdowns, you would have expected a bigger day from Metcalf. I'm not sure what happened in those red zone touchdowns, maybe why he wasn't looking for DK. But that's something to think about and to see where those touchdowns were going and why DK wasn't getting those. Also, Calvin Ridley had a really bad week. He was a bust at 4.7. There's not a whole lot to be liking about Jared's bench. He does have Keenan Allen that maybe he can plug in for Ridley or another player at that flex position. But Keenan Allen is over 30 years old, coming back from being in the wasteland that is Chicago. It's really hard to trust somebody like Keenan Allen. That said, he could potentially have another big week like he just had. I'm expecting Cole to pull this one out, but this is game of the week and should be a tight one like the projected shows. We have another close projected game here, but I'm really expecting Levi to pull this one out. He was our best team of the week last week. I expect more of the same. JJ McCarthy had a great fourth quarter. We'll see if he can continue that or if he's going to maybe continue to struggle to get set into the football game. That'll be kind of a decision for Levi to be making. But whenever JJ did settle, there was a lot to be liked of running and throwing the ball and in that offense. Bijan Robinson did what he needs a first-round pick to do, scoring 21 points. Chase Brown, even though the points don't exactly show it, he was getting a ton of touches. He had 21 carries on the game, and he just needed a touchdown to really show that he had a great day. Mike Evans had a quieter one with Ibuka getting all the touchdowns. Roma Dunza had a pretty good showing. He seems to be pretty matchup dependent with whoever Caleb's playing against. He clearly had a lot of talent. I watched that game quite a bit. He's a very talented receiver, but Caleb Williams has terrible footwork, and he just doesn't seem like he's going to be able to get his receivers the ball in a regular fashion. Brock Bowers left the game early with a knee injury, but he did come back, and they're saying the knee injury is not a problem. He should be good to go, so nothing to worry about there for Levi at his tight end position. And then Chuba Hubbard and Courtland Sutton, I was haters last week on them. I still pretty much am haters on them, but they proved me wrong. They had a great week. Chuba put up some good points. He had some good touches. Really the only bright spot on that Carolina offense. And then Courtland Sutton had a great touchdown as well and some good touches. Really the only, again, one of the few bright spots of that Denver offense. John Rush, on the other hand, he, again, had a really weird week. Bo Nix did not do well. And Amon-Ra St. Brown did not do well. He had 6 targets. You expect Amon-Ra to really get more targets than that. Trey McBride looked like the real deal at tight end. Arizona really moving the ball well, getting the victory there. Breece Hall was a surprising good game. Really, all the New York Jets had a surprising good game. Not sure what was going on with the Steelers defense that we expect a lot more from. We'll see what Buffalo looks like. I'm still not putting him as a for sure bona fide player quite yet. I love his talent, like I said, but I think we need to see more than the flash in the pan of the first week. Aaron Jones really had that one big touchdown catch that saved his day. Jordan Mason is really the player to have for running back in Minnesota. Puka Nacua looked fantastic. Hopefully no concussion concerns for him. But if he does have Devontae Adams in the wings here, who didn't have the best week. He does have 7.1 points last week. But if Puka misses any time, Devontae's going to feast. And then lastly, he has McMillan. Pretty mediocre day. Bryce Young doesn't look good. It'd be really hard to start. That said, he really doesn't have anybody on the bench worth starting, so he kind of has to start that Panthers player. Then our last matchup of the week is TJ versus Devin, and this was in consideration for me for game of the week. This projected total keeps switching. Players must be flipping some people out, but it is the closest projected total. I don't think it's going to be that close, though. I actually have TJ winning this game. Lamar Jackson looks to be the real deal, rushing, throwing the ball. He looked great against Buffalo. They should have won that game. They unfortunately did not. That's going to be a tough one for John Harbaugh if he doesn't have that clutchness factor in him. Jonathan Taylor looked really good. They do have a tough Denver defense coming to town, but he looked good in the touches he had. Jaylen Warren was a nice surprise. Really winning that backfield, and he's going to continue to be a versatile player for Aaron Rodgers there within Pittsburgh. CeeDee Lamb looked great. Dak was throwing the ball well. Jacoby Myers, I told you guys not to sleep on Jacoby Myers. He had the most targets for Las Vegas at 10 this past week, and he did really well with that. If he can continue getting the ball from Geno, that's going to be awesome. TJ Hawkinson had a really bad week. So did McLaurin, and so did Swift. If these players can turn it around for him like they really should, TJ is going to be a really scary team and somebody I'm projecting to win this game. Devin, on the other hand, on the offset, it looks like it's a pretty good team, and I do think it's a pretty good team. That said, I just think TJ's is a little bit stronger this week. Josh Allen does have a great matchup against the New York Jets, coming off a great victory there. I mean, you're going to be riding that peak, and this, again, is an in-division game. They do have Sauce Gardner on the outside, but really Josh Allen wasn't beating people necessarily with just one receiver that Sauce is going to take away. It's just really the full deal. He is rushing the ball, he's passing the ball, he's looking good. James Conner had a great week. Justin Jefferson started slow, but really he's always going to be there for JJM, and that rookie's only going to continue to get better. Brian Thomas did not have a good week. He had one, as I mentioned earlier, he had one catch on 7 targets, and then he had one carry that saved his day with that touchdown. That's not going to cut it. Evan Ingram didn't look good at all. Jerry Jeudy's a Cleveland receiver, not good. Igbuka had a big week, but I don't think you can count on big weeks like that from a rookie every week. Mike Evans is going to get some touchdowns of that, not just Igbuka. I think he's going to have a regression week. Omarion Hampton, there's a lot to like there. He got a lot of carries. He's looking to be the back to own in Los Angeles, really with no competition. Najee was hardly in the game, but he wasn't able to turn that into points. And really, I think the weakest point of Devin's roster as well is the bench. There's really no players that he's going to sub in for somebody like Jerry Jeudy, who I think is a very mediocre player. So that's the week upcoming here. Some really good matchups. This is going to be a big time for waiver wire. This is before everyone has their waiver wire picks in. So these rosters are going to potentially change when we get into the actual week. But we are expecting some big weeks with Levi leading the way in points. And we'll see if Trenton once again lays a stinker and has the lowest points of the week. Thank you for tuning in this week, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.